Hey, what's up? I'm Justin. Welcome to 65 Drums. If you want to keep on top of everything Edrum related, hit that subscribe and bell icon so you don't miss any of the new videos. So this is an electronic drum news roundup surrounding NAMM. All the electronic drum news that has dropped this month, I just wanted to combine it into this one video so you get an overall picture of the brand new gear that is out there. Now, for some of you that don't know what NAMM is, it's a convention that happens every single year where all the people that make microphones and drums and guitars and pianos, they all come together in one giant convention center and they announce all their brand new products. And what some people don't realize is that they actually usually announce their stuff like the day before or the week before. And that way they can sort of build hype for when people actually attend the conference. They can run straight to the Roland booth or straight to the Alesis booth to try out the brand new drum set. It's meant more for industry people, the people that buy all of the stuff for Sam Ash and Guitar Center and Musician's Friend. They all show up, see if anything interests them, and then they place orders, sometimes at NAMM, sometimes later. So it's more for industry people. I haven't gone yet, but it's definitely on my bucket list to attend one of these days. Anyway, let's start with Roland because they've announced quite a few new interesting things. Now, in my previous video, I mentioned this trigger was selling for $365 because I was on a music website that listed it at that price. But it turns out that website was wrong. Its actual selling price is $260, which is a relief because that's a much better price for what this trigger is. And it's really a 3-in-1 device. It mics your drums, it triggers your drums, and it has a module built into it. That exact combination has never actually happened in a drum trigger before. Now, unfortunately, that drum module only holds 8 sounds plus 8 sampled sounds that you can load into the thing. It's very, very limited. If you've got 2 gigs, okay, and each gig needs 5 sounds, you're screwed because they only let you load in 8 of your own sounds. So incredibly limited. I know version 2 will have more sounds and stuff, but I'm not sure why Roland kind of nerfed it before they even released it. But it's a really cool drum trigger for certain situations. I know there are going to be guys buying this thing. It's going to sell well. It's just that it's only good for certain situations. Really cool drum trigger. Some people were claiming the Roland trigger was a ripoff of Dream Trigger, which is a yet to be released drum trigger that hasn't come out yet. But really, I completely forgot about a third company that beat Roland and Dream Trigger to the punch. This company was making drum triggers with internal sounds way before Roland thought about it or even Dream Trigger. This company's called Trigger Mic. You need to go check them out. This trigger is actually on its 2nd generation. You can remote control it via Bluetooth. It's a really interesting drum trigger, and it actually beat Dream Trigger and Roland. So if anyone's being copied, everyone's copying Trigger Mic. And they also have a kick drum trigger that uses a laser. So they were the first drum trigger to use a laser even before Dream Trigger. There's always one company that did it before you if you look back into the archives. And I completely forgot about this company until someone brought it up to me. So I just wanted to do that as like an asterisk on my previous video I did on the Roland trigger. But anyway, back to the news. That's the first product that Roland announced, the Roland RT Mic S. It's kind of unique and kind of recycled because Trigger Mic already did it a long time ago, but Roland's twist on the idea is that they're including a drum mic into the equation. So you're micing your drum and you're triggering it all from one device. So I think that's a really cool idea. The second thing that Roland announced was a brand new drum module. Again, this is for hybrid drumming. This is the Roland TM6 Pro. And a lot of people are probably thinking about buying this to use with their electronic drums as an upgrade. But you really shouldn't because it's not actually aimed for you to use it with an electronic drum set. This was specifically tailored and designed to be used for a hybrid drumming situation. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the specs. First of all, you get 500 sounds, and a lot of these sounds, they're meant more for like layering, so you'd have your mic'd acoustic drums, and these are sounds that would mix well with that, create like a stacked, really cool, deep sound that's kind of multi-layered. And then also there are the classic cymbal sounds and drum sounds, so there's a wide range, and it's sort of mixed so that it's good for hybrid situations. And they stressed in their specs and stuff that some of the sounds were recorded at pretty famous studios like Real World and Rockfield. The first real sign that this is meant for hybrid drumming is when you turn the module around and look at the ports on the back. First of all, it's only got 6 trigger inputs, but thankfully it can be split to 12, so that'd be mono, just one zone trigger inputs if you use Y cables, but it's only got 6 stereo inputs. What I'm really happy about though is that it has 2 master outputs and 4 direct outs, and you can actually turn those master outputs into direct outs if you want, so that means you would have 6 direct outs for each one of those triggers if you want it to be like that. And you can even assign like a click to one of those direct outs or a song to one of those direct outs. They make it really flexible. You can assign whatever you want to any of those outputs. There's also a foot switch input and there's a port to plug in an SD card. Because thankfully, Roland has finally warmed up to the idea that maybe drummers want to put samples on their drums. One of my favorite things about the newer Roland drum modules is that they're starting to use knobs to control things like pitch, decay, and stuff like that. So there are 3 knobs on the front of this drum brain, and they control volume, pitch, and decay. And if you press this soft key over here, you'll switch it over to being able to control transient attack, transient release, and effects control. The reason why I love this so much is that you don't have to mess around diving into deep menus. It's just right there as a dedicated knob, really easy to tune things up and down. Because most of the time, when you're going into the menus, you're just trying to change something really, really simple, and having a dedicated knob or button to do that instead of diving through all these menus is a better idea in my opinion. Now, one last thing about the interface on that thing, you'll notice that there's a whole row of buttons just so you can press, like tap to hear the kick drum sound and the snare and the cymbals and stuff. The reason why I usually don't like that on drum modules is because there's literally no reason to have them. It's a waste of space. Like on this Cat Percussion KT4, I never actually press this to hear what the kick drum sounds like. What I'll do is have one hand, so I'm actually making the edits on the module. And if I want to hear what the kick drum sounds like, I'll just use my foot to hit the kick drum. It's too many buttons. It makes it look more cluttered and complicated than it actually is. However, on a hybrid drum module, I think it's actually a good idea, because if you want to test how the snare drum sounds, you don't want to actually hit the acoustic snare drum if you're in a quiet environment trying to do some quick edits. So having dedicated buttons in this very narrow specific case is the only time I actually like having those keys on a drum module. Now, the reason why I'm glad this thing exists now is that I didn't like the previous hybrid drum module Roland had. I'm sure it's still around, the Roland TM2. It's an okay drum module, but it's so, like, it can hardly do anything. There's hardly any inputs on it, has hardly any sounds on it, very limited. I actually got to try it once, and I walked away not a giant fan of the thing. So I'm glad there's like a big brother version of it that can do more things and probably has a better build quality to it. Again, because I didn't even like the shell of the TM2. Okay, so moving on from Roland, ATV actually made a couple of cool new announcements. They have 3 new electronic cymbals. Now, there's been a lot of buzz about ATV cymbals because, as you know, there's a handful of electronic drum companies that actually make good electronic cymbals. I'm talking about rubber ones. There's a bunch of other companies that make metal electronic cymbals. I don't have enough knowledge about which metal electronic cymbals are best. But as far as rubber electronic cymbals, there's only 2 real companies that make amazing rubber cymbals. You have Yamaha and you have Roland. And then Medley makes all the cymbals for, you know, Simmons and Alesis and like everyone under the sun. The Alesis strike cymbals are better than the standard Medley ones that they sell in the lower end kits, but they're not quite up to the standard of Roland cymbals and Yamaha cymbals. Some people might argue for Pintec cymbals. I haven't actually tried the Pintec Visualite cymbals or any of those, so I can't say for sure. So you have all these companies over here making electronic cymbals. It's kind of stagnant. No real innovation in rubber electronic cymbals is happening. Nothing really fun and interesting is happening. And then all of a sudden, ATV shows up on the scene. They drop a brand new drum set, the Edrum's line, and of course, it's going to have rubber cymbals. And I've got to say, the really brilliant thing about ATV, I'm not a fan of their pricing. Again, they have kind of high prices. But the really brilliant thing about their pricing strategy is they sell a version of the drum set that doesn't have a drum module and a version of the drum set that does have a drum module. They actually made the drum set to work with a lot of Roland and Alesis drum modules. And so that's pretty sweet. You can buy any of these cymbals and they'll work with your drum set. Now take a look. Their 3 new sizes is a 10-inch, 12-inch set of splashes. That's sweet. You don't have to buy a lower end version of a cymbal to get a splash size. And then finally, a 17-inch China cymbal. That's the one I'm actually excited about. I was never a splash cymbal person. I don't really care about splash cymbals very much. But having a 17-inch China cymbal with the right shape, I think that is pretty darn sweet. Now, unfortunately, I don't have any pricing for that. I was checking out edrumcenter.com and they haven't actually updated their website to show any of the splash cymbals or the China cymbal yet. The 18-inch ride cymbal is $450. So as you can see right there, they're going down in $50 increments. So I would expect those splash cymbals would be like $350 and $250. That's just a guess. And then that 17-inch China cymbal, it's probably going to be close in price to the 18-inch ride cymbal because they're like nearly the exact same size. Now, like I said, I'm most excited about that China cymbal because we've never had anyone make a 17-inch electronic rubber China cymbal that looked like that. A lot of people, whenever they wanted a China cymbal, they'd go buy the one from Trigera. So it's something that has been needed in the market, and I'm glad it's here. It's going to be really expensive and stuff, so not all of us are going to buy it, but I'm glad it's out there. On to the next topic. Roland just announced 2 brand new drum amps, the PM100 and the PM200. Now, I gotta be honest, I was never really a fan of the previous Roland amps. There's something about their sound profile. It never really appealed to me. I just don't like them, and they're overpriced. You can buy a cheaper Simmons amp that just sounds better than the Roland amps. However, these are two brand new models from Roland, so who knows? These might be really darn good. We'll just have to try them out in a store sometime and see if they're actually living up to the hype Roland's trying to build behind them. But again, I wasn't really a fan of the previous Roland amps. We'll just have to see what these bring. So switching gears to talk about Pearl for a second, they announced a MIDI marimba. Now I realize this isn't bleeding edge, brand new news. Hardcore Edrum nerds have known about this for a couple of months. The general public doesn't know about this though because it's still in pre-order. It's not actually out yet, but they had a booth at NAMM showing it off, and I know it's going to come out really, really soon, so I wanted to mention it here. This is the Pearl Mallet Station. This does exactly what you think it would. It's got 43 silicon keys, and there are 0 internal sounds. You can connect it to a laptop, an iPad, or an Android device and trigger sounds from that device via whatever VST, whatever drum software that you want. This should be a nice alternative to the company Alternate Mode, which makes a very popular line of MIDI marimbas. But I doubt it will pull away the hardcore fans from that company because they're so well established. Their products are very, very good and they're pro level. But the interesting thing is that Pearl is sort of positioning this as an alternative to Alternative Mode. See what I did there? Basically, this is $1,000 and alternate mode stuff is a little more expensive. All right, so just a couple of interesting facts about this thing. You can change octaves, and this thing comes with little gap caps, these little covers that go over different pads that go dead when you change octaves. That way you know which ones are active and which ones aren't. It has a really nice interface that lets you do a lot of different things, multi-purpose buttons on it. You can mute sound if you hold down when you're pressing on the pads, and it's on pre-order right now for $1,000, and that's really pretty cheap compared to different alternatives that are out there right now. And it doesn't draw power like from your wall. It gets power straight from the USB cable going to whatever device you plugged it into. Next up, we've got Alesis. They just announced 2 brand new drum sets, the Alesis Surge Mesh and the Command Mesh. I did a dedicated video on this if you want to go in depth on a comparison and different specs between them, but here's like a dumbed down version of that video. The Surge Mesh comes out and it's replacing the Alesis Forge at $500. It's a really nice upgrade because even though you're going back to a Nitro module, the module won't be quite as good, but you're getting all mesh pads. You're making some compromises, but this is an incredible upgrade over what was here previously. The second kit, of course, is the Alesis Command Mesh, and it's just replacing the old Alesis Command drum set. It's sticking at $700, so you're not changing price at all, but now you're getting all mesh pads. So there's like no compromises here, and you're at $700. On the surface, that sounds like a really good thing, but even though they gave you all this stuff extra without increasing the price, the problem with this drum set is that you're $100 away from a Yamaha 522K. So I don't really recommend this one as far as value across the different markets go. It's good value if you compare to other Alesis drum sets, but really it's not because you're just $100 away from like a Yamaha 522. You're $200 away from a Roland TD11K. So at this price point, I would actually buy the Alesis Surge mesh drum set because it's a better value for your money. All mesh pads for $500. That's really unheard of, at least in the United States markets. And not to burst anyone's bubble or anything, but Alesis didn't stay up late into the night dreaming up ways to make their $500 electronic drum set better. They're just sourcing the exact same pads everyone else is from the company Medeli. If you take a look at the Millennium MPS 150X, this thing is going for just over 300 euros, and it has the exact same pads. So you get an all mesh drum set for 300 euros, just with a slightly different drum rack and a slightly different drum module. So again, a lot of this is driven by the company Medeli. They kind of just control half of all the electronic drum companies out there on the market, and you just never really notice it because all the different drum sets are just rebranded with other company logos such as Alesis. Okay, so that's your electronic drum news for the day. If a whole boatload of new news drops, I will make a part 2 to this video. If I missed anything, let me know down in the comments below so I'll have material for a second video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you guys think of all these different announcements. See you guys in a few.